really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by the talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-line broadcast bunker on the beautiful south coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hello, Coos County. Hello, Oregon. Hello, America and beyond. If there's anyone listening from America or beyond, that is, and I know there are a few people online right now checking this out, and I want to thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk about a few different things that might interest you. Did you check your mail? I know I checked my mail. I have very little to do sometimes during the day, and checking the mail is one of the most important things to do. And of course, we got our voters pamphlet. Yes, got my voters pamphlet. It's like a Sears catalog of voting that we're going to have to do and have to decide. And I've been looking through it, and I advise you to start looking through it and get prepared, because there's a lot of people out there who don't have a freaking clue. I'll be honest with you. My thing is politics, and yet I don't really know some of the judges in there at all. I don't know who they are for the positions they are running for. I don't know anything about them, and I'm going to have to find out about them. So the judges, that's always interesting. Every year I get, I don't know, probably about a half a dozen people calling me, well, which judge did you like? And I'm voting none of the above. I'm not voting for any of the judges. And so it's just one of those things where you got to find out what's going on in the voters pamphlet. Yeah, the voters pamphlet. It's the election is on November 5th, and let's see, it's the 11th. They just came out. So the pamphlets, I didn't check the calendar. So that means probably in about 2 more weeks, the ballots will be coming out. And when that does, I will be doing my regular pamphlet ballot review. I know a lot of people will start asking me pretty much as soon as the pamphlets go out who to vote for. And I'm pretty solid on everyone I'm going to decide on. Pretty solid. I know I've been checking my list. I've checked it twice, and I know which politician has been naughty or nice. And well, most of them were naughty ass bastards. What can I tell you? There was some really shady characters in there. Shady characters. It was like the villains of the Dick Tracy movement. I don't know. It's the Dick Tracy movie, not movement. Maybe there was a Dick Tracy movement. I don't know. There's probably a bowel movement, but a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things happening around the country and in our state especially. I don't know if you guys got to check it out, but I got the video for the work session that happened yesterday. And I got to tell you, I would have paid for that event. It was Professor Groomer, whatever his name was, versus Dr. Douglas Frank. It was Professor Grimmer, Dr. Douglas Frank. Yes. So we had a professor taking on a doctor. It was an academia all-out war, and it was really neat. It was pretty cool. No chairs got thrown, but one guy did get arrested. There was one guy who got arrested, and I didn't get any good pictures of him because it was fairly sunny outside. And when they stuck him in the car, that's about the time I came out, and I was taking pictures of him. And the glare off the police car, the windows on the police car, kept me from being able to see him on the inside. If the lighting would have been a little bit better, or if I had a flashlight, I would have got that sucker. But there was a guy, this guy always comes out to many of our meetings, to our events, and usually greets us in Coquille at the commissioners meeting. He will come out, he will yell and scream at us. But this past Thursday, for the debate for Dr. Frank, he just went, well, completely batshit crazy. What can I tell you? He was just batshit crazy. And he came up to Dr. Frank and he started yelling and screaming and giving him the bird. And he was yelling at Marty. And Marty's got a great little story. I should have had Marty on here to tell this. I'm sorry for all of you who love our drinking game on Fridays. Maybe I'll celebrate myself, drinking with myself. It's better than dancing with myself. And I don't fall down as much. Well, most of the time. But Marty, he comes on the show and he loves his Rolling Rock. He loves his Rolling Rock. And there's now a game where people try to keep up with Marty. Every time he drinks a beer, they drink a beer. And so I tell people, if you want to play a drinking game on Friday, we'll just watch the podcast. And so I forgot to call Marty and get him on the show. And that's okay. That happens. We'll get him on next week. In fact, next week, I think I'm going to get Drew Farmer on here, who's running for county commissioner. I thought maybe it would be cool, instead of doing a one-on-one interview where, I just sit there and grill him on questions. Wouldn't it be funner to have the candidate come on while me and Marty are drinking? And really, we don't give a shit what we say when we're drinking. We just, for some reason, that filter completely goes. We don't have much of a filter left anymore, especially me. The filter is gone. And when I'm drinking, it's worse than a filter. I've got a megaphone mouth. That's it. And so that's a problem. And if I'm going to have that problem, I want to make it someone else's problem. So I think we should have Drew Farmer, the candidate for county commissioner, on the show on one of our Friday night rants. I just came up with this. See, just a little bit of spirits can help you work your way through any problem you might be having. Because I was having a problem because Bob doesn't want to come on to a live debate. I don't know if he's even willing to come on the show and do a one-on-one interview, but I do know Drew is wanting to get on the show, and I have to give him kudos for that, because he knows that most of my audience, they're not going to be the type of people who want to see a progressive wokester like Drew Farmer. And Drew Farmer is a total progressive wokester. I've known him since he was a young man. And when I first met him, I could smell the political ambition on him. I had been an activist for a long time by the time I met Drew Farmer, which was about 10 years ago. And he came into the Republican headquarters, and I forget where that was at the time. I think it was in the mall, but not in the same place it's in the mall this year. It was in the mall, and he came in and wanted to talk to some of the Republicans. And of course, sure, what the hell? Let's see what you want to talk about. And I knew right then this guy was a progressive. I knew Drew Farmer was a progressive, and I knew just by the way he was talking, the way he was acting, the way he was interested in different subjects, that this guy was politically looking for that political career. He was looking for a stepping stone into his next position. And pretty much all of his life since he's been out of the Navy has been working for a non-governmental organization or a governmental organization, or serving as a city councilor or another type of representative on a committee. That's what he's been doing. And so being a progressive liberal, I wouldn't call him full-on socialist. I wouldn't call him a full-on commie. I think he's like one step below that. I don't know. You never really truly know these people until you get them in into office and you see how they vote. And he is seriously, he's got the progressive disease. He's got the woke mind disease. And so we, having wokeism is a disease, and he's infected with that. So it's nice that we do this virtually, so I don't have to be in the same room with him. So I catch his woke mind disease, because God help you, you catch that woke mind disease. The next thing you'll know, you'll be wearing Birkenstocks, you'll get a man bun, and you'll be cutting off your wee-wee. And I don't know what the hell happens to these people today, but this wokeism, this woke mind disease, it's bad. It's really bad. And I hope that people understand that maybe it's a contagion that you catch from direct exposure to these people, which is sad because some of these people are probably your friends and your family. But Drew, he's what I would call an acquaintance, and I've known him for about 10 years. He's an all right guy. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't I wouldn't have him over for dinner, probably. I mean, that's not something I would do. But, if I had to, I'd meet with him at any point in time to talk any issue that he'd like to talk about. So I would think that he would be kind of interesting to have him on with me and Marty for Friday for one of our rants, because I think that would be really cool. We kind of got to find out, if he's willing to open up a little bit, if we pry him a little bit. You know what I mean? You got to pry sometimes to get those politicians to open up. And speaking of that, I started out talking about the event yesterday, Thursday, and how at the beginning of that event, some guy got arrested who's been flipping us off and coming after us. Not physically until yesterday when he didn't touch Dr. Frank, but he did get in front of him and he's flipping him off and he's yelling in his face. And there was a cop there, or they called the cops. The cop showed up, arrested him. And now we get to find out who he is. His record is public records. And so we're going to find out who he is. And believe me, I'm going to let people know who this guy is, because he always shows up to the events harassing people with the mask on. He's got a mask on and he's got either a hoodie or a hat. And, I don't know. I think his clothing wear is from the Antifa collection. That's damn sure. But he's one of those type of guys, and he's, like I said, he's been wearing a mask since probably before COVID. I think he was one of those freaks who started wearing masks in 2016 and just carried it through COVID because it was normal at that point. But he's just, I'm glad they finally arrested him. And, I was hoping it didn't shake Dr. Frank for his debate, because he had a pretty good debate. And I'm going to show you some clips of that debate if I can get my machine working, because, sometimes my machine doesn't always work. It likes to work, but sometimes it just doesn't. That's a modern technology for it. Which is kind of like, old-fashioned technology. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And so I'm looking for a video that I made at the meeting yesterday. And it was a 3-hour meeting. It was a very long meeting. And like I said, it was a work session type meeting. And they call it a work session. And it's a little less informal. But Rod Taylor, at the beginning of the meeting, he put down some serious rules. He didn't want people messing around and letting their phones go off, or having them not maybe have the phones go off, but speak out or yell out or scream out. The leftists sometimes do that. And I can't really say it's always them, because I have a habit of familiarity with the commissioners. So sometimes I will make remarks, that are just damn funny. Sometimes they're just freaking damn funny. And I will make remarks from the audience, and the commissioners will just give me that look like, Rob, shut the hell up. And so I was hoping that I could control myself and I would be able to maintain and not speak out at that meeting. It was really hard. There were several times during the debate I wanted to say something, but I didn't. I kept my cool, because it was a really good debate. And Grimmer, who's a professor from Stanford, he had a couple of students there. And I got to meet his Asian student by the name of Casey. And she was a 20-year-old young lady who went to Stanford. She was born in Japan, and she had moved to this country as a child. And she wanted to come to Coos County because she's never really been out in Oregon before, especially in rural Oregon. And she wanted to see if we are the way we are, because, I'm sure they hear stories. Oh, those Oregon rubes, they don't have plumbing yet, you know, they're marrying their sister and such. And so I'm sure she heard the rumors when she was in Stanford, but also she said she wanted to come out here because of the ocean, the trees, the weather is beautiful. And I was glad to see her because she was probably, of all the things that happened, it was nice to meet a 20-year-old girl who, she probably was woke in many different ways, but she didn't come out as woke. You know what I mean? She didn't push it in your face. She didn't introduce herself and immediately told me her pronouns. I hate when they give you your pronouns. As soon as they give you your pronouns, you just want to just smack the shit out of them and tell them, we don't do that here. I don't need you to tell me what words to use to describe you. And right now, the only word I'm thinking of is stupid son of a bitch. And so that's the nice thing about this young lady who I met, Casey, is that she wasn't woke and she wanted to really listen to some of the things that we were saying. She actually had questions and she was taking notes during the meeting. And it was nice to see someone from Stanford that, you know, didn't have blue hair, didn't have any piercings. She actually looked like a normal young lady. So I give her kudos for that. And so she came with Professor Grimmer. He brought a couple of his students so that they could watch the debate. And I'm glad they did because Dr. Frank, for lack of a better word, well, he ate his lunch, boy. He ate Grimmer's lunch. He took that guy to town. He made his girlfriend wear his jacket while he beat the hell out of Grimmer. That's how bad it was. Yes, it was pretty sad. I mean, I thought we were going to have to pull Grimmer up off the floor and give him smelling salts. I mean, if it would have been a boxing match, he would have been up against the ring with a couple of darkened eyes that he couldn't see out of, and his coach, or I mean his coach, his trainer would be throwing in the towel. Yeah, this is how bad it would have been. And so it was one of those events that I had to film. And if you want to watch it, I got it on my Rumble channel, and you can just go to Rumble at Rob Taylor Report and you can watch the whole video. But right now I'm trying to get the video loaded up. It was a 3-hour meeting, And so it takes you a while to process those videos. And so I didn't realize before this program that if I didn't click it while it was in OneDrive, that I would have not had to have wait right like I am waiting right now, and thinking of things to say because I'm waiting for this file to download so I can show you the video of the meeting because it was damn entertaining. And I got to tell you, Bob and Rod, the commissioners, even John was really good. They had great questions. They were in tune with what's going on. And I think when Frank finally got to the chart, and you'll see it here in the video, I'll play it in a minute. When he got to the chart where it shows how voter rolls were different in the counties, in the 36 counties of Oregon, they started at different places and they didn't act in the same way, meaning that it didn't look like it was manipulated. And that's what he's saying. There's an algorithm in the voter rolls that is being controlled or induced by the state to basically buffer up our voter rolls so that they can add more voters to the voter roll when they need more voters and take them out after the election, so nobody's the wiser. And he could demonstrate this with the charts so clearly that I think everyone in the room, including the leftists, were starting to go, that is interesting. That's almost like impossible, statistically impossible for all the counties to start following the same pattern with their voter rolls. And I mean the exact same pattern. And I think I've had these charts on here. But like I said, if you want to see the whole video, it is over at on Rumble at Rob Taylor Report. I'm still waiting for this video. That's pretty sad. It was a good video. When I got there, the first thing I did is I put my camera right there on the commissioner's bench. Here's the meeting. One follow-up will be allowed per question, and they only get 30 seconds. Jumped up your area, man.
Oh, that's okay. will be the end of it then, and we'll move on. The questioners, I'm going to make sure that we're balanced and we alternate. We're not going to have 10 questions from one side and none from the other. We're going to go right, left, right, left, right, left. Okay. So, and
reshare my screen. Okay, let's see here.
Let me make you.
Okay, I'm sharing my entire screen. Early 2021, and so that's just been my life ever since. So I have a lot of experience. I've met with about 24 secretaries of states with them in their office with a white hat and hacked into their elections right in front of their faces. And so while a lot of people think that their elections are secure, no, in every brand, every state, they are not secure. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. People also figured out who I was because President Trump asked me to be his keynote speaker at his first rally after being out of office. It was in June of 2021. And he said to me, Dr. Frank, explain to the world how my elections are being stolen. So I'm not a stranger to this. I've been doing this every day, essentially for 4 years now. And I'm very familiar with Oregon data, as you'll see. And I like what Patrick Byrne described it. He says, Dr. Frank reverse engineered the algorithms they're using to cheat our elections. And that's exactly the best description I've heard of me yet. But he also said in a recent talk, he said there are a dozen tools in their cheating toolbox, and they use whichever combination of tools works best in each situation. And I think those two quotes really capture a lot of what my work is. Bottom line is, and I'm just going to tell you guys, the bottom line problem that you have, and especially in Oregon, is that you're not in charge of your own elections. And I'll just quote Stalin at this point. It's enough that the people, Stalin said, it's enough that the people know there was an election. The people who cast the votes decide nothing. The people who count the votes decide everything. And I have a modern version of that, which is whoever touches the machines last wins. So in other words, the problem is you're not the one in control of your elections, someone else is. And I can prove that to you. Now, I'm not going to do this in today's presentation, but I wanted you to know that this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing in Coosa County. In fact, I met with the team yesterday. As I'm going around the country building teams that are learning how to, that I'm passing along the wisdom that I've learned from around the country, how to take back control of their elections. I call it the 7 steps. And there is a 7 steps team now established in your county, and they are working towards it. So you'll be hearing more about this from them. It's important to me that you realize that it's not.
So that was his introduction to his presentation, and I'm not going to play the whole presentation here. I encourage you to go over to Rumble and see the video for yourself. And I'm going to try to play some clips out of here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them because you just, I'm going through here. Yeah, I think I'm almost to the point where. Okay, here we go.
If I'm still on pause, I'll just respond to that very quickly. So I agree that we have a representative democracy. And so democracy can mean a lot of.
Okay, this is, oh, I'm sorry. Geez, I'm looking at the screen and I didn't realize you guys can't see that. Well, that's not very helpful. Now, is it? So let me share this screen. There it is. And let me play this part for you because I think this is pretty interesting.
And by the way, that post-presentation applause is the only interaction that will be allowed. Thank you. And of course, the same will apply for Dr. Grimmer when he is done.
Thanks, you.
Dr. Grimmer, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Excited to present to you all. Let me tell you why I'm here. I grew up in a working class town with a working class family. And growing up in that town with that family made me love America and love American democracy. So I spent my career studying American democracy. I evaluate claims that there are problems in our elections, and I evaluate proposals to potentially improve American democracy. As part of my work, I've worked extensively as an expert witness in election litigation. I've been hired by many states in both parties and I actually work with the National Bar Association to educate judges about how to evaluate experts in election cases. So what am I going to do here? I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. All I'm going to do is present to you some facts that we uncovered in our evaluation about claims that Coos County elections are broken. You don't have to agree with what I say to you today, but I want you to know that I took this very seriously, and we take these claims very seriously. And I also want to say we're available for questions, and my research group is happy to dive into any claims that are made or concerns that you have. We briefly had the slides, and then now. That's okay.
While we're paused.
Yeah.
Doc,
Pause the time, Council.
we don't have a democracy. We have a constitutional republic.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm happy to discuss that.
But go on.
Well, if I'm still on pause, I'll just respond to that very quickly. So I agree that we have a representative democracy, and so democracy can mean a lot of
No,
things.
Republic.
So if I please can just explain the way I'm using this very specific term here. Democracy is also defined within the field of political science to have a certain set of characteristics. And so I would agree with you. What you're calling a republic, I would call a republic as well. And of course, we don't have a fully participatory Athenian democracy where everybody's coming in and voting. We have first a representative democracy in many states. And then beyond that, when we think about the federal government, that's a republic. We have states that come together and vote for the president, for example. That's not a democratic institution, that's a Republican institution. So I agree
We also
completely.
have an Oregon Constitution.
100%.
All right,
Yeah.
let's get back into our time.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah, I'm happy to discuss that further.
And that was the exchange between Bob Main, or I don't know, can you hear me? That was the exchange between Bob Main and Professor Grimmer. I'm sorry, is it Grimmer? I think it's Grimmer. And it was great that finally someone stepped up and smacked one of these liberals upside the head and explained to him that we are not a democracy. And he kept calling us a constitutional democracy. That's bullshit. When you take the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'm not a big fan of the Pledge of Allegiance because it wasn't written at the inception of this country. It was written in the early 1900s, and it does have kind of a nefarious beginning. And I don't know if you don't know about the Bellamy brothers, Francis Bellamy, and what they were doing when they initiated the pledge and tried to and was successful in making it our national pledge, you would understand what I'm talking about. But in that pledge, it says, to the republic for which it stands. To the republic. We are not a democracy. The founding fathers despise and abhorred democracies for the fact it's nothing but two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for lunch. That's a democracy. A democracy is the antithesis of liberty, because if you got five guys in a room and three of them decide something that the other two men don't like, why do they get to take your rights? Because there's three of them and somehow that makes it moral? That's not how the world should work. And I know I'm giving you a pretty simplistic example, but that's all it takes is five people. You get three on one side and two on the other. The two always lose. And if they want to do what they want to do, they should be allowed to do it. Three people, where do they get the authority to do that? And of course, they don't have the authority until all five of them agree that they have that authority and give them the power to take the vote and take the word of the majority over the minority. And that's the oppression of the minority by the majority. And so when this guy, you already know that he has no credibility for the fact that he's calling his country a constitutional democracy. George Washington would have took that fat boy outside and whooped his ass seriously. Okay, that's George Washington and Jefferson and Madison. Of all the things they didn't agree upon, they did all agree that a democracy was the worst form of government, and that's why they wrote it constitutional and made this country a republic. It's exactly why they did that. We are supposed to have the maximum limited government, or the minimum amount of limited government, and are the limited amount of government or the maximum amount of freedom. We're supposed to have the most freedom that anyone can have without it being total anarchy. And you do that by having a limited government with a sound justice system with laws based on the rights of the individual, because the rights of the individual is what's important. And so going into this debate, we already knew that this Professor Grimmer was a jackass. And so we didn't take him too seriously. And once again, if you want to see more of this, I would highly recommend that you go check it out on my Facebook. No, it's not on Facebook. It's on Rumble at robtaylorreport.com. And let's see, I want to play another part for you if I
In fact, I
can.
would,
Let's see.
if Doctors Frank and Grimmer would be willing to both sit at the table.
Sure.
that
This
way
is with Mary
responses
Jedry.
can be fed in.
This is hilarious.
What I said, since I was in the audience, is I seconded his comment.
Yeah.
I also looked into that allegation and it's correct, but it's for the primary. I'm not sure that matters. In the primary, you could sort the ballots ahead of time. It's public. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I'll just say it's a product of Oregon having closed primaries where only if you can only vote for the candidates that you're a party for. So if we had open primaries like other states, then that wouldn't be necessary.
Well, and I'll just one moment, please, Mary. I'll interject that when I posed this question about the party identification codes on the primary ballot envelopes, what I was told was that this facilitated the correct ballots to go into the envelopes. But that absolutely does not square with the fact that in that particular election, there were 54 different ballot styles. So that was a complete fabrication. But anyway, I think that is no longer happening.
My question, I have a zillion of them, so.
Can't hear you.
We're gonna close that door. You need to go around and release that, sir. Thank you.
Is there
Yeah.
is this the microphone?
Yeah, that's your microphone right here. All right, that'll help.
I'll speak into that. I listened to your testimony at Tina Peters' sentencing.
Yes.
And one of the things that you stated during that testimony is that you've been nominated for a Nobel Prize.
In chemistry, 1990.
Do you know who nominated you?
Yeah, the editor of Not Your Distant Shot.
Okay. Do you have a name?
Yeah, just look it up.
And
He
then,
came to my lab for a week and took all my biographical information, and I have letters and all kinds of things. The nomination process doesn't mean I'm a Nobel Prize winner. It just means that when some big discovery happens, they go out and investigate. He came to my lab for a week, collected my biographical information, made sure everything I said was real, checked out my experiments, made sure they were real, and then he invited me to write feature articles for his magazine. And he's the head of the Nobel nominating committee.
my understanding is that they don't use the names of nominees.
No, they don't do that, no.
Is that the?
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay.
And that's, of course, Mary Jedry making a damn fool of herself. That's Mary. Mary, she just can't help tripping over herself. It's there's so much of her. I completely understand why she does. She trips over herself quite often. If it ain't her tongue, it's her lower belly. It's sad that this woman is once again our local vocal leftist who writes just downright lies in her articles that she puts out there. She's accused me of a lot of god awful things that are completely untrue. And the sad part is normally I don't really give a crap what this lady writes or says about me. What makes me mad are the people out there who believe it and then think that about me when they meet me. And I've talked to people who've said, oh, I read this article about you saying where you were a white supremacist and the Grand Wizard of the Coos County KKK. Is that still true, Mr. Taylor? And I have to go, no. That was that cud chewing cow, Mary Jedry's imagination run wild as much as she should be running wild out in the prairie with the rest of the cows. But that's just my opinion on her. I don't have much of opinion on her. It just ticks me off that there are people out there who are stupid enough to believe this woman. And she's done the same thing to several of my friends, Matt Wilbanks. She's done the same thing to Rod Taylor. And so anything that you tell this woman, she's going to twist and turn. So what you saw in the video is what she was trying to do was trying to malign Dr. Frank, because one of the things that they said when they came up at the last meeting talking about Dr. Frank here in the county, and this was the meeting right after the last time he was here, they were saying that he claims to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was nominated. I've seen the evidence. I've seen the proof. It doesn't take too much of a Google search and you can find it. And so anyone who gets to be someone who's a runner-up and I shouldn't say runner-up. I don't think that's a contest. Is it contestants? No, but he could be a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. They don't put those recipients out in the public. They don't always put their names, but he did have the documentation on it. And just the fact that he was considered for nomination means he has accreditation. That's the problem with these people. And that's what they kept trying to do, was to hammer down his accreditation by saying, no, he's lying about his record. He's lying about his doctorate degree, which he has one. He has several. And they're lying about he's lying about the Nobel Peace Prize, and that he was considered to be a recipient at one time, a potential recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, and he wasn't, and so this is what they do. This is what the left does. They can't impugn your argument, so they impugn your character. Yes, this is what they do. They do it to me all the time. None of these leftists who think all these crazy things about me and say those things to me when we're out in the streets in a protest or at meetings like this, and they say some really stupid shit. And you look at them and you go, you don't even know me. You don't even know me. Well, that's the same with Dr. Frank. They're doing the same thing to him. They're maligning his character because they can't defeat his argument. And his argument is really sound. And I think that question, that the public questions for that debate were after the actual debate. And so I think Mary, the reason she asked that specific question is because she couldn't ask a question to deflate Dr. Frank's argument. That's just my opinion. And it did get a little bit more heated. There was a point when one of the employees got up there well, it wasn't pretty. He called him an idiot, and it wasn't very nice because Frank said that he could get into the machines. He could hack the machines. And he said he's been successful in hacking every machine that they have allowed him to do a penetration test on. And no, a penetration test might not be what you think it is. It's actually them penetrating the security of your computer and able to hack that computer beyond, the shield. And so he's been able to prove this several different times with a white hat hacker. That's a guy who's illegally allowed to hack into computers. So let me show you this part of it. This is another one of the leftist loons here. This is the former county clerk, Didi.
Follow up on this. So if the allegation is that people are coming in who shouldn't be there or who had already departed Oregon, another way to approach this is public record searches on the individuals who supposedly are phantom voters and locate where they are. The nice thing about that is that it doesn't require people to go knock on the door. Sometimes people are skeptical about who comes to the door. I'm not saying this, but various government officials have had various attitudes towards these sorts of canvases that could lead to some controversy that probably wouldn't be productive. So just figuring out who these people are from public record searches where there's an abundance of data, I think would be an initial, even easier step
Mhm.
if that's the case. And my experience has been investigating in those circumstances, we're able to find those people
Yeah.
and understand who they are.
Petey.
Yes. Dee Murphy, Coos Bay, Oregon. And I want to say that we do have local control of our elections. We do all the work in our office, entering all the voter registrations that come to us either by DMV or by electronic registration or by mail registration. It's all done right there in the elections office. And I want to know if you alerted the authorities, the county clerk, the SOS, anybody, about anybody that you found you felt was fraudulently voting.
If you're asking me directly about that, no, I did not do that. What we did was return to the walk list for whatever protocol was going to be pursued on that. So no.
So did you, Dr. Frank, or do you?
I haven't, what my policy is when I work with a local team, I give them lists, they search the list themselves, they pick out likely suspects, they go knock on the doors. Then I don't say, now run to the clerk. I think that's a mistake. I require them to do the public records search. I require them to do their own investigation. You guys are busy. We don't need to overwhelm you with a bunch of cases that are not the cases.
SOS should know, that's what
Well,
we do, when we get that information.
What I'm saying is we're in that process right now. I just established a team here. I never had a team here before. I talked to a couple of people. So what'll happen is they'll research it, and when they find legit cases, then they'll bring those legit cases to you. There's no sense overwhelming you with a bunch of red herrings.
And actually, you know what, I'll correct my own response to you, because it occurred to me as I saw the sheriff walking by, as a matter of fact, I did after that canvassing. Didn't I, Sheriff, sit down with you and Sheriff Zanny when you were Captain Fabrizio? We sat down at Frazier's and I talked to you guys about this. And they told me that there wasn't any, they didn't have any jurisdiction, they didn't have any authority to pursue that would have to go through the Secretary of State. So I apologize for misremembering, but I did in fact report it to an authority. So.
Well, I do want to reiterate that we do have local control over our elections. We program our own ballots, we count them ourselves, and they're all right in our county clerk's office, and they're not anywhere else.
Okay. Nancy.
And so that was the former clerk. That was Dee Murphy. And if anything could go wrong, Murphy would be the one doing it. And so that's called Murphy's Law here in Coos County. We after all of those anomalies we found in the 2020 election, that's what the Murphy Law is. If anything can go wrong, Dee Murphy did it. That's Murphy's Law. And so she was the one who took the place of Debbie Heller, who was the clerk who immediately quit after finding out they didn't back up the voter pamphlets with images, because they're supposed to record images, back those images up so that they can give them out for public records request, or if they need to do a recount. And they have to do this by federal law. And Debbie Heller, who was the county clerk, well, they had a computer failure. It didn't happen. And when we found out, boy, she resigned real quick. There's a long story to that. And I know Marty has told that story on here. And next time I have him on the show, after a few Rolling Rocks, because the story gets better the more he drinks, after a few Rolling Rocks, we'll have him tell that story again, because it's pretty damn interesting. But what that video clip you just saw, what that was about was the list that Dr. Frank will give the group, and it's the election integrity group. We have one here in Coos County. It's a private group with only certain individuals on there who are going to go around knocking on people's doors who are on this list to see if they can find the phantom voters. And we're looking for fraud. We're looking for illegal voting, such as Tuttle, Thomas Tuttle. the Democrat San Franciscan who's committing voter fraud or allegedly committing voter fraud or did back in 2020 and 2018. Well, we found him and he was an illegal voter, allegedly. I have to say allegedly because I don't want to get sued. And he's a man who has a lot of money who could sue me forever. He would never win, but it doesn't matter because someone can just sue anyone for any damn reason in this country. We need tort reform. But the list that we would get from Dr. Frank is what we would use to go out, knock on doors, and find out if the name on the list, the people who actually voted in the county match the people who are at the address. And he has a way of formulating a list of what we have of highly potential suspect voters. And we make that, he makes that list. He would have to explain how he does it. He does it much better than I will, and I don't want to butcher it. And that's the list that we use to go out. And Rod Taylor had taken one of those lists and actually gone out and knocked on doors. And I think he said it was the first 7 out of 7 that he knocked on, he found phantom voters. Now, that doesn't mean they were all committing fraud or they were illegal voters. That means they were phantom voters. And after you get the 7, you got to find out why there were phantom voters there. Was it because maybe he was a military man and he wasn't there because he was all over the world? And military people get to vote from the place they actually were shipped out from? That could have happened. Is it someone who moved and moved back, moved away and moved back because of maybe a family lived there, a mother and a father, and it was a son or a daughter moving back and forth? That could have happened. There are many different reasons why there might be phantom voters, but in some cases, they're illegal voters or they're committing fraud. And so the illegal voters are the ones who are voting more than once, and the ones who are committing frauds are the ones who don't actually exist. And Dr. Frank has found both types of voters using this same system of developing that list. He's done this in other places, and we're going to start doing that here in Oregon in different counties. We want to get 3 counties to begin with, 3 counties with 3 election integrity groups who have people as members who are going to go out and do the hard work and knocking on the door. But we might have some help here in Coos County, thanks to our commissioners. This is another reason you may want to vote for Bob Main, because I doubt Drew Farmer would be for this. But they want to bring back the elections board. We used to have an elections board. I think it was going back to 2010. We had an election board, and they got rid of it because they said there was nobody interested in being on the elections board. Well, after 2020 and the shit we went through in 2016 and 2020, I can guarantee you there are many people who would love to be on the elections board, and it would help to get some of our side into the clerk's office on election night to see the process. And since many of us, whether we're Democrat, Republican, non-affiliated, whatever, if we're just a voter or a citizen, many of us don't trust the election system. I would say probably about 75% of Americans just don't trust the election system. We don't trust government at all. And to be quite honest with you, we shouldn't trust government. We shouldn't trust government at all because they're lying bastards, and that's why. So we are going to be forming this election integrity group thanks to Dr. Frank, who's able to get us those lists. And that's what he was explaining when he was talking to Dee Murphy. Now, there is one other clip that I want to show before I round this up. Like I said, I was telling you about an employee who got up there and basically got into it with Dr. Frank about the machines, whether they can be hacked into or not. And so it turned into quite a little bit of a showdown between him and the employee. And I thought the employee was just a little bit rude. And I will let you decide for yourself what you think. Let me see if I can get that screen sharing going right now. There we are. And this is not the employee. He's coming up next after this lovely lady.
So I hope that addresses your question.
I think maybe she misheard me too. I didn't say in Oregon that you have more people voting than you have people in the rolls. If you think about it, my key is a percentage. It's lower than the rolls. But I did say that you have more people registered than you have people in some of your counties. And that's what's about to come out in the Judicial Watch lawsuit. You have more people, it's voting, it's not registration. Those are two separate things. You have more people registered than you have people. Yeah. Okay. But not more people voting than you have people.
We just want to, because this might be an area of slight overlap between us. So unfortunately on the left, basic list maintenance has gotten labeled as a voter purge, and it's sort of a dirty word. But list maintenance is just a regular, normal thing that localities engage in. And so I think you could end up with what in the literature we call deadwood, individuals who are on the voter file who have moved, excuse me. And so that is the case, that those people exist. That's well known. And in so much as states can engage in reasonable amount of list maintenance, then you'll have fewer of these individuals who no longer reside in a place registered. I don't see a lot of fraud coming from those individuals, but just a part of having a reasonable voter file is about including those.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sherry. Darius, did you want to take your minutes? Okay. I see you, ma'am, and then we'll get online right after this lady in the back. Okay, Darius.
Hello, my name is Darius Boudelier. I'm the IT director of Coos County. I apologize for my outburst, but I explained this in the July 2nd meeting, and Dr. Frank repeated it again, that he can easily hack our network from his basement in Ohio. I want to go over this one more time for the record. It's the same, pretty much the same thing I said before. Abigail was 100% correct, although she left a little bit out. It's important. Our election system is air gap, meaning it is not connected to the county's network. It's not connected to the internet. Our machines, I can't speak for Washington County, and I can't speak for the state of Oregon. Our machines do not have modems or wireless connection. They only are connected by cables to each other. There are tabulators and there's a server. The tabulators push their numbers up to the servers. The clerk takes the numbers from the servers, puts them on a brand new, never been used USB flash drive. This is the part Abigail didn't have. They go over to a computer that connects to the state's computers using a encrypted virtual machine that's running in the state. So the transmission of those numbers go up from that thumb drive to a machine running in the state in an encrypted fashion. Encrypted means it's scrambled. It can't be read on the internet. So the only time those numbers go up, they're encrypted and scrambled. Now, those numbers, let's, for the sake of argument, say that there was 10,000 votes for the Democratic candidate and 10,000 votes for the Republican candidate. When the clerk reports those, and if those numbers are different than what's reported, the clerk will call that out. So we know if something happened at the state level, that the numbers don't match what we're counting here. Now, you can maybe hack the state system, but I can tell you there is never a chance where anybody outside of the clerk's office can connect to one of those tabulation machines or the tabulation server. I've said it once, I've said it in more detail this time. This is what's going on. I cannot speak to what you saw at Washington County, but that's not Coos County. And I don't know what's going on in the state of Oregon. I have no overview. Our system, it was designed well, and I reviewed it before I went into place.
Okay.
And I keep an eye.
Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and so that was the IT director of Coos County. Let me see if I can get out of this. I hate when that happens. And so that was some of the highlights of the video. And the only place I could put this video right now was on Rumble. I could probably shoot it over to Twitter, but I haven't done that yet. So it's on at Rumble. It's under the Dr. Frank Professor Grimmer debate. It's the first or second video on my page at Rumble at robtaylorreport.com. And so that was a pretty damn good debate. I played the part where he came up and apologized for his outburst, but he actually called Dr. Frank an idiot just a few minutes before doing that minute talk. And the commissioners allowed him to talk a few extra minutes because he is the IT guy. If one of my employees called one of my customers an idiot, you probably would be shown the door. I would say, hey, you see the carpet? Find the other side, because I don't want you helping my customers. But in this situation, they were allowing him, this IT director, to wear, Darius, I think it was his name, wear two different hats. They were allowing him to be the IT director and to testify as the expert, but they were also allowing him to have his own views on the situation. He lost, once he's called Dr. Frank an idiot, he completely lost the debate. That's pretty much the rules of the debate. Once you start calling people names, you lost. You have to use your brains and your wit to develop the argument that you best to your ability to defend your side. And starting by calling people's names is not the way to do it. You're not going to get anywhere with that. And so it turned into a shouting match. And that's why I highly recommend you got to go watch this video. I wish I had video footage of the guy getting arrested at the first of the meeting, but it was a really good meeting, and we're going to continue this. We're going to continue on with the election integrity group, and I might go out with the group while they're knocking on doors and ask people if they mind us talking with them, interviewing the people of the doors that we knock on. If we find phantom voters, I think it would be cool if, they ask him, look, would you allow Rob to come up here and film you and interview you and ask you about the voter registration that is a phantom registration to your address? I mean, if someone knocked on my door, and I'm sure this is probably true for anyone who's watching, and they said, look, we've got a guy here or a woman here who seems to have voted from your residence. Here's the list from the clerk's office showing that they did get a ballot from this address, and you're telling me this person doesn't live here. As the person sitting there, I would want to know, I would seriously want to know what this person was doing voting for my address. And none of your business. Hey, none of you. I'm glad you're joining us today. But not only did he lose, he openly displayed his character and therefore credibility. And that's just it. You start calling people idiots, you totally lose your credibility. And anytime I've ever been into a debate, the best thing you can do is to look as relaxed as possible. I try to be as relaxed as possible. I learn and I study the information to the best I can. And if you know your subject material and you give yourself time to calm down, to relax, to get your pulse rate down, to get your voice down, to talk a little mellow, to be able to be a little bit more monotone, that is the best thing you can do in a debate. And just give your point, make your point, make it very forcefully, but don't call anyone the name, and let them know that they're wrong and here's why, and counter everything they say. If you really know your subject, you should be able to do that. And Dr. Frank did do that. He was incredible. I mean, it was quite the back and forth, but they did it in a very professional manner. I mean, I was impressed. It was like watching two professionals in a boxing ring. It was seriously badass. It was an academia free for all right there at the commissioners meeting. And so you got to check out this video if you haven't seen it. And none of your business. You're right. Dr. Frank is not an idiot. No, he is not. I have spent quite a bit of time with Dr. Frank now, and he's a very nice gentleman. He's a very busy gentleman, and he doesn't make any money traveling all over. And I mean, everywhere in the US, he's gone there. He travels all over working and trying to form these election integrity groups, or talking to legislators, because the legislators from different states, the legislature from different states, have invited him up to speak at the legislature. And he's got a lot of great support in different states. Not here in Oregon. He wouldn't even be welcomed in Oregon. They probably would put a ban on Dr. Frank at the doors of the Oregon State House. That's probably what would happen. But he's welcome in a lot of other places. So he doesn't make any money on this, and neither did Professor Grimmer. And I'm sure, even though he doesn't make money, I'm sure there's probably some type of fee or fund that covers his trip and his student's trip. I'm just willing to bet the college has, it's like some type of field trip, some college field trip, field trip in academia with or without LSD. It just, how do you want to trip is up to you. And so that's academia today. And Grimmer did a lousy job. And like I said, if you want to see some good stuff, an actual really good debate, you got to go check out my Rumble channel and check out Dr. Frank and Professor Grimmer. There were a lot of neat things happening in Oregon. And one of them is the Aurora Borealis has made it pretty south this year. Aurora Borealis has made it out here, and it's beautiful. This is from North Bend. This is from Washington State. This is from Washington State. This was from Thena's granddaughter, I think she said. Thank you, Thena, for the beautiful picture here. That's absolutely incredibly and beautiful. Those colors are pretty cool. And our own Diane Rich, she took this photograph here in North Bend. That's beautiful. That beautiful purple there. I'm going to go out after the show and see if I can see anything here from Bandon. Usually it's cloudy. We don't get to see much. But I'll tell you what, when I lived in the mountains, I lived in the desert, in the high desert, where it was about 6,000 foot elevation. And on a clear night, which was most of the nights in New Mexico, you could see forever. Those stars, it was like they were right there in your face. I mean, I can totally understand why ancient people, why they worship stars, why stars were part of the astronomy and astrology. I totally get why people got into that stuff, because, being at a 6,000 foot level and looking at those stars is absolutely incredible. Well, 2 months before I left New Mexico, which was in 2003, it was probably about February or January. The Aurora Borealis had gone so far south to have been in the skies of New Mexico. And as simultaneously, while we were able to see the Aurora Borealis, New Mexico was in the middle, or the United States, the southern United States, was able to see a meteor shower that was happening at the same time. And for like a week, this lasted like probably not a full week, about 4 or 5 days. You could sit out between midnight and 3 a.m. You could sit out in your front yard in a t-shirt with a beer and get the best show you have ever seen. It was mind blowing. What are those laser star shows that you go to, with the planetariums, those laser shows? I don't know if you've ever been to see any of those. That was nothing compared to what Mother Nature provided for us in New Mexico that night. And the purples, the blues, the greens, it was just phenomenal. And then on top of it, you got meteorites shooting across the sky. This would go on for, like I said, 2 or 3 hours every night for like 3 or 4 nights. And it was the most incredible things I'd ever seen in the sky. And I saw a lot of things in the New Mexico skies. We lived right next to Sandia Labs. So there were weird lights, weird flying vehicles. What can I tell you? Yes, they had some black helicopters, but I had a friend who worked over there, and he said, well, there's nothing really nefarious about the black helicopters. That's just the color we paint them. And but it was fun being able to experience that. And I hope you guys are able to get out to check that out, because you don't want to miss that. That's some beautiful stuff. And take the kids. I highly recommend that you take the kids. There is an article that I found. I was going through and I was trying to figure out, what news stories do I need to tell? What do I need to talk about? I know what I'm going to talk about before I go to the news story. This is very important. We are still fighting against the wind turbines. We're still fighting against BOEM, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And it's one of those agencies, as far as I'm concerned, probably shouldn't even exist. We really don't need BOEM. It's useless. It's like tits on a boar hog. Why would you need that? And so this right here is a map of the call area that they want to lease out to huge corporations. and they had an auction going on. This is in case nobody knows. I'm sure everyone watching my show knows, but they were having an auction, and 4 of the 5 bidders pulled out, and they have one remaining bidder who, as far as I know, has not pulled out. So a lot of people are thinking, well, we won the fight. And I keep telling people, no, the timeline hasn't stopped. The timeline has not stopped for this project. They have like a 7-year timeline, and we're still in the middle of that timeline. And so I'm telling people that you definitely need to stay awake on this. This isn't going away. Bohm is just waiting until they get enough bidders. They will bring that auction back as quick as you can blink, and they will do this. They will go through with this project. And from what I hear, we didn't think we were going to see any opposition, but rumor has it that some of the radio stations, their commercial time has been purchased at a high level by people who are in the wind industry. Supposedly, there is a wind energy corporation, and from what I heard, it's from California. Once again, these are just rumors that I heard from people who are in the radio industry here in Oregon, here in Coos County, and they're saying that a lot of their advertising just got bought up by a wind energy company who is fighting against the advisory question, and they're going to encourage everyone to vote no. No to stopping the wind turbines, no to opposing it. I know in this question, no means yes, yes means no. It's a really screwed up world. What can I tell you? But we need to encourage people that this is not over, because what they did with postponing this auction is they put up the grand illusion to everyone out there that, oh, this is over with, but it's not over with. And I explained to you why. There's still the timeline. The timeline continues. And you got to get out there and tell people, if you're listening, you got to tell people, you got to let them know that they have to vote yes on the different measures that we have. And they can find out more and stay tuned with what's going on at our Facebook page at facebook.com, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines, because we're still fighting it. They're not going to fool us. No, they're not. I've been to a few rodeos. If there's a turnip truck sitting outside my house, I didn't fall off that turnip truck. That wasn't me dropping out of that turnip truck. That must have been the local bum, because I didn't just fall off a turnip truck. I've been in a few rodeos. I know what's going on here. They're not going to fool me. They're not going to fool my associates. We're going to continue this battle, and we're going to continue this battle until we win. Right there is our signs. You probably have seen these signs all over Coos County. I've littered the county with these signs. Literally, we put them up everywhere. It's yes on 6-219. That's yes on measure 6-219. Vote yes to stop offshore wind turbines. And we also have a website. The website's at the bottom of that picture, oawt.org. Of course, that stands for Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. And we recommend that you sign up for our newsletter. It's going to be I think it's going to be a blowout of an election. But if they get all the radio shows, they start doing television commercials, and they will do flyers. What they will do is they'll either hit advertising in the newspapers and the local weeklies, and then they'll do flyers, direct flyers. This is what David Brock Smith did to win the election. It's an old trick. At the last week that people are able to vote, you for a week, and I think he did it for 10 days. Every day you send out a flyer, and there's a lot of people who normally wouldn't vote, but after getting 7 or 8 flyers, they go, okay, all right, we'll vote. And so we got to stop that. We got to keep fighting against this. So don't be fooled. And this is also on the Curry County ballot, measure 816. And the reason I wanted to start off with this is because we are having a rally tomorrow, the Breaking Wind Rally. Yes. Okay, you may not want to stand too close to me in a rally called the Breaking Wind Rally, but we are breaking wind. We've already kind of broken them. They're kind of broken right now. We broke them good enough to get them to postpone the auction. We working together with our commissioners, with all the people who were part of getting Bohm to stop the Indians, the Indian tribes. We encouraged their lawsuit. They sued, and we encouraged the commissioners to put an advisory question. They put an advisory question, and we went to the streets and we had protests. We had rallies. We went to all the meetings. We wrote letters. We got on Facebook. We spread the word everywhere. We were like a bad set of luggage, man. You were never going to get rid of us. And so the Breaking Wind Rally, these are 2 rallies in one day in Curry County. And this is happening tomorrow at noon. This is Saturday, October 12th. The first one is at the Curry County Courthouse. We're going to meet at the Curry County Courthouse. We stand right there on the front of the sidewalk in front of the courthouse on 101. And we rally there from noon to 1:30. And then at 1:30, we head down to Brookings, where at 2 o'clock, we meet with another group of people at 711 Chetco Avenue to continue the rally. That's right. We continue the rally, 2 rallies, one day. You got it. And we're going to do this because we now know that we may have some opposition, and we want people to know that this vote is still very important. And if you want to do something about this, the best thing you can do is share our website and our Facebook page as many times as you can and let people know this battle still continues. These people, you know what I mean? They are like legion. They are everywhere. They are everywhere, and they're spreading in numbers. You know, these bureaucracies, the deep state. They don't call it the deep state for no reason whatsoever. It's the deep state. And so, show up to the rally. It ought to be fun. And just so people know, we are going to do a Trump train, and we're going to do it on Saturday, 26th. And we're not going to go to Brookings. We're not going to go to Brookings. We're going to do a Trump train, and we're going to start in Coos Bay, North Bend, Bandon, Coquille, and back to Coos Bay. And we're going to hit the downtowns and the city centers for all of those cities. In North Bend, we're going to make sure and hit the city hall. We're going to make sure hit city hall in Coos Bay, and then we're going to go down to Bandon. And yes, I know we're going to scare the living crap out of a bunch of latte sipping liberals in Bandon, but they can take it, man. They're tougher than they look. I know they look like fragile flowers, but they can take it, man. And so, we're going to do a roundy round right in downtown Bandon. How would you like to do that? Yes, with your car decorated with a whole bunch of Trump regalia. You know, and I really love if you got a pickup truck. If you got a pickup truck, borrow one from your mother-in-law if you have to. You know, that's a good thing to do. Borrow one from your mother-in-law if you have to, and put a whole bunch of Trump flags on your mother-in-law's pickup truck and join the Trump train, because we're going to downtown Bandon, we're going to downtown Coquille, and we're going to go back to Coos Bay. And so we're hitting all 4 cities. I'm going to talk to a few people and see if they're interested in going down to Myrtle Point, but I don't know. That's kind of far, and gas is really expensive. And then once we get back to Coos Bay, we're going to meet back at the boardwalk. And at the boardwalk, we're going to have a couple of speakers there. And so we're working on getting a few people elected, and we're working on keeping that word going out there as well. So we've got the Breaking Wind rally tomorrow in Gold Beach and in Brookings, and then on the 26th, we're going to do the Trump train here in Coos County. It's going to be a 4 or possibly 5 city stop for the Trump train. Yes, we're going to go from Coos Bay to North Bend to Bandon, Coquille, possibly Myrtle Point. I don't know. What do you guys think? You know, I get comments from you people all the time. I don't know. Were you anyone who comments? Are you considering going on the Trump train? Would you think about doing something like that? I don't know. Some people are into it. Some people go, nah, no. And you know, a lot of people were ticked off because if you look in the voters pamphlet, Trump isn't listed in there because his campaign decided that they weren't going to waste the money in Oregon to pay for the submission to the voters pamphlet. And I was talking to a friend who does the Trump train down in Brookings, Mark St. James. I was talking to him. He's an old buddy of mine. I've known Mark a while, and he's a really good guy. I kind of agreed with him. We were talking. He was saying, you know, I'm kind of ticked off. They didn't spend. We're doing all this work We're supporting this guy. We're putting up his signs. We're doing the Trump train, and his people decide not to be in the Oregon voters pamphlet. And I can understand because, you know, Trump winning, that would be like the seventh seal being open. You know, that would be like, you know, the earth and the moon colliding if Trump was to win in Oregon. In fact, if Trump wins in Oregon, yes, it may be the second coming of Christ. That's how almost impossible it is for Trump to win Oregon. Mathematically, he could do it. Mathematically, if all the Republicans who are registered Republicans, and some of them who are those phantom voters, if they, even the phantom voters and all the other real registered Republicans voted for Trump and we got all the nabs, we could win this. Is that going to happen? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. I couldn't even consider Oregon purple. We are deep, dark blue, okay? We are like the middle of the ocean kind of blue, you know? It's just not going to happen, folks. I know a lot of people would love for it to happen, but it's not going to happen. But don't get mad because Trump wasn't in the voters pamphlet. It's cool. It's cool. It's all right. You can calm down. We'll continue to dig in, and I hope that doesn't dissuade you. Boy, I like that word, dissuade you from coming to our Trump train here in Coos County. And I hope some of you who are watching in Douglas County, or if you're watching in Lane County or in Curry County and you want to come up here, you're more than welcome to show up. We pretty much allow everyone to join, except for that weirdo who got arrested yesterday at the Coquille Owen building. No, we don't want that guy. If he shows up, he might end up in a crap trap. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm sure I just violated some law or code. But I do want to get to some of the news stories that I was looking at before I got on here, because I thought there were some of them that were interesting. And I don't always pick the news stories that you see at least 10 times on mainstream media. And I hope these are a little bit different than what you have been seeing. I hope this is news to you. But this one here, you probably know this. Oregon removes 300 plus additional ineligible voters. Governor calls for a third-party audit. Well, of course she calls for a third-party audit. She's going to have to call for a fourth and fifth-party audit because our voter rolls are so dirty. I can tell you what, Mr. Clean couldn't clean up our voter rolls. That's how disgusting our voter rolls are. That's why we're getting sued by Judicial Watch, which was really cool because Judicial Watch, they, let me stop this video. I don't know if you guys can, let me stop that. Oh, it won't stop. Why won't it stop? Please stop. Okay, I got it to stop. And so this was off of Just the News. I don't know if you guys get Just the News. This guy is on Real America, Real American Voice, RAV, R-A-V. And it says here, the Oregon Secretary of State directed county election officials to remove more than 300 additional ineligible voters after over 1,200 were removed last month. The governor, meanwhile, has called for a third-party audit and instructed the Motor Vehicles Department to pause automatic voter registration. Oregon Secretary of State Levon Griffin-Valade told county officials on Monday to remove 302 voters from the voter rolls after the Oregon Driver and Motor Vehicle Services Division stated in a report that it determined that they had not provided proof of U.S. citizenship. No, really? Who could have predicted that except everyone with a brain cell in Oregon? Ooh, who could have predicted that? I don't know. The Secretary of State's office is working with the county election officials to investigate whether the 302 individuals have ever voted. Have you ever voted? Let me know. I just want to know, did you break the law? Yes or no? It's a good answer. It's a quick answer. Yes or no? Answer. I'm sorry, I don't speak your language. And so that's probably the response they got. But the 302 voters were found after the Secretary and DMV identified 1,259 people in the state last month who were registered to vote without providing proof of citizenship due to an error between the DMV and the Elections Division of the Secretary of State's office. Those voter registrations were removed from voter rolls last month. The Secretary of State announced Monday that she instructed the Elections Division to create and fill a new position that oversees the process of automatically registering voters through the DMV. And of course, then the governor is going to make excuses. And the third party person is probably connected to the first party person because they're getting paid off by that person and anyone else in between. And really, this will probably go nowhere. But I think it proves the point of what Dr. Frank was saying at the meeting yesterday, at the work session yesterday, that our voter rolls are dirty. I think this was a great story to come out exactly the time that Dr. Frank was here in Coos County talking about this exact subject. It was just absolutely perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better way of basically proving your point. And not only did he prove his point with the graph, but I think he proved his point with this story about all of the people in Oregon who are voting illegally. And there's a lot of them. You think about this. I found some guy who was voting in 2 different states because he has houses in 2 different states. He actually has another house, a third house in Colorado. I didn't check to see if he was voting there. I probably should. But there are 400 second houses here in Bandon. And don't ask me how the mayor came up with that number, but I got it from the mayor. She said that I'm going to find out how she got that number, but she says there's over 400 second houses in Bandon. So if there are over 400 second houses in Bandon in a place where there's only 3,300 registered voters, what are the odds that someone, maybe 1, maybe 2 people of that 400 are double voting in the place they live and voting here in Bandon as well? I'm willing to bet that probably happens more than what we might think. So, wow, this is a strange comment. Oh, I love this comment. Corey Dabney. Okay, just tuned in. Who is this guy again? I don't know. Are you talking about me? You talking about somebody else? Who are you talking about, Corey? Who really are you talking about? But I appreciate you tuning into the show. I'm talking about Oregon politics right now, in case you did just tune in. And I was just talking about our election rolls and how they're dirty. They're disgusting. They're disgusting election rolls. And of course, we're being sued for that. And of course, if you live in Oregon, you know that we're getting worse than a lot of people in other states. We're getting worse than California. And this was another interesting story here. Data shows Oregon prescribed kids puberty blockers 613% more per capita than California. That means that, and let me show you this story here. Why isn't this coming up? Oh, there it is. And for some reason, it's not the right story. I apologize. Here it is. Here's the story. Here's the one that I wanted to go to. Data shows Oregon prescribed kids puberty blockers. Can you guys see that? Let me make sure. Yep, you can see that. 613% more per capita than California. That means that we are mutilating children at a higher rate than that freak gruesome. I don't know. Maybe it should be gruesome, not Newsom. That's where I was going with that. His name should be gruesome, not Newsom. But Newsom, the governor of California, he's actually mutilated much less children per capita than we have here in Oregon. In Oregon, a 15-year-old can receive gender-affirming medical treatments without parental consent. That means at 15, little Tommy can go to school and become little Tammy, and he don't have to tell you. The school doesn't have to tell you. It's none of your damn business what they're doing to your kids. And for some reason, there we go. I still wasn't sharing the right tab. Let me see again. Yeah, there it was. Puberty blockers. Okay. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Who's that man in control of those buttons? But I'm going to read from this article here. It said recent statistics disseminated by the nonprofit Do No Harm, which is a really crazy leftist group, this Do No Harm group. In fact, their name is the opposite of what they mean. Do no harm means we're going to harm the hell out of everyone. But Do No Harm shows that roughly 13,394 minors underwent sex change treatments nationwide from 2019 to 2023. According to the data, the oldest child was 17 years old, with the youngest being 7 years old, while nearly 38% of those kids came from California, New York, Washington, and Ohio. Oregon came in right behind in terms of the total number of child sex change patients, with 853 based on the 2020 census data. That's roughly one child per 4,967 residents, or about 20 patients per 100,000 people, which includes adults. So if you want to know who the number one child mutilating state is, that's Oregon. You're living here. You're living in a state that loves to mutilate children. What the hell is the matter with our state? You know, it's like we're producing weirdos. It's incredible. Some of the freaks that are, they move to this state, and they come here and they think it's a beautiful place, and yet they bring their deviance and their hedonism. And you know, hey, maybe when I was 20, the hedonism might have been okay. The deviancy, no, they're getting really weird. This whole mutilating of children stuff really has to go, and they really need to stop it. It reminded me of another story that I had found on the net. Let me see if I can share this tab now. This is about the forestry department, I believe. Let me see, make sure you got it. Yes, this pink-haired DEI trainer slams Oregon forestry bosses for hiring on basis of merit, not gender or identity. Well, heck, we can't have that. You mean hire people because they're qualified to do the job? Well, shit, man, we wouldn't want to do that. No, we wouldn't want to do that. Boy, this website has a lot of freaking pop-ups, don't they? Yeah, let me see if I can get the face of this creature here. She was quite the creature there. Yes, there she is. This lady's complaining. Yes, let's see right here. Shaw, this is Shaw right here, the purple-haired lady. Shaw, who earns $192,000 a year as deputy head of Oregon's Department of Forestry, has been put on leave over Donecker's complaint. I'm sorry, the purple-haired lady is Donecker. I apologize, wrong person. Shaw was the gentleman. I don't think we have that picture. I saw that one. It's probably, I have to scroll down to see that one. But Donecker, who worked as the Department Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Chief, claimed 6 queer staffers didn't feel safe or comfortable at work because they could not have conversation around pronouns, because that's really what we need in the Oregon Department of Forestry. We need all the workers over there talking about their pronouns, deciding what color hair they're going to dye themselves this day, and what weird freaky shit they're going to shoved in their face and tattooed on their butt. And you can only imagine what goes on in conversations with these weirdos. I mean, I'm sorry, you know, maybe I'm being cruel, but you can look at this woman and you can tell this lady has some mental deficiencies. If you can't, then you're the problem. You're the problem here. If you can't look at this woman and go, yeah, this chick, a little bit off her rocker. And what is she worried about in the Department of Forestry? She's worried about her damn pronouns. You know, this is the same thing that's happening across the country with FEMA. You got FEMA all worried about DIE. Actually, DIE would be die. That's more what it is. DEI should be spelled DIE instead of diversity, equity, inclusion. It should be diversity, inclusion, and equity. And then that would be proper, because that's what it is, because it's killing everybody, because it's part of that woke disease I was talking about earlier. And so I'm sure when people read stories about Oregon on these types of news sources, this one right here is from the Daily Mail. But these news sources, they're lying bastards, but that's the kind of freaks that they promote. This is the kind of, stupidity they promote. And of course, they put her picture on there because we all want to accept her. She's part of the inclusionary club. And of course, it's only inclusionary unless they want a bunch of white heterosexual men there. And all of a sudden, it's not so inclusive. But that's really what this is all about. And so I look at this is part of that woke disease that's coming to Oregon, and it's here. It's eating away at the brains of the citizens, and it's moving across the United States. It's just from the East Coast to the West Coast. We're just going to smother all those places in between, and you can see it happening. So that's why we can't leave. We have to continue to fight here. And, you know, if that means I have to do a few more rallies, hell, I'll do it. We'll do a few more rallies and we'll stop a few more of these policies. And don't think you can't stop a policy. I've stopped, I don't know, at least, I don't know how many laws we have been able to prevent from being activated. I mean, I don't know how many times we've gone down to the commissioner's office and they were going to pass a policy or change a policy that was just, well, ignorant. And so we would go down there, 50, 60 of us, and we would be able to convince them not to do that policy. I'll give you an example. When they passed or decriminalized marijuana, the state, the law allowed the state to give the counties the right to make their own regulations on the dispensaries, and they could actually have had a lot more regulations if the counties wanted to put more regulations on these dispensaries. And of course, when the county saw this coming, the county had about 16 pages of new regulations. And so we went down there was about 100 of us, and we said, look, okay, you know, whatever you think of smoking pot, that's fine, but they've decriminalized it now in Oregon. And many of us are tired of watching a lot of people wasting their life away in jail, serving in jail for a lot of things that presidents, movie stars, and a lot of other people do. They imbibe and they smoke a little pot. And so we went to the commissioners and we told them those 16 pages of new regulations, that's bullshit. We're not going to take that crap. And so we got them to take away 15 of those pages, and we got the one page that was required by law, and that was redefining the terms of cannabis and dispensary and all those other things that are in the lingo of enacting the decriminalization law in the states. And the county had to come up with those new, or not really come up with those new definitions. They just had to list them in the county code. And so we got them to take away 15 of those pages and put in just the definitions. That's all they put in. It was a beautiful day. And so I'm one of those, like I said, if you want to do drugs and drink alcohol, that's up to you. If you're an adult, I don't give a damn. And I think the government should stay out of our life. But my point is that you can change policy. You can change that policy. We've changed a lot of new gun laws. We still have gun laws in Oregon on probably about, I would say, 28, 30 counties still have Second Amendment preservation ordinances or Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances. And even though it got defeated in Columbia County, it wasn't a statewide nullification of the laws. That didn't happen. It just suffered a defeat in Columbia County. So you can change laws. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't change these policies. You can do it. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. And so, when you got the lady I just showed you in Alaska with the pink or the blue hair and more worried about her pronouns than she is of doing the job, like putting out all those forest fires. This is the Oregon Department of Forestry, and they're running out of money, and the state's running out of money to fight these fires. And what was that person worried about? Worried about being able to talk about her pronouns. That's really what's important here. I know your house just burned down. You just lost all of your farm animals, your crops, all your livelihood. Well, what's really important are my pronouns. Ze, zer, they, them. I'm so confused. I don't know what the hell my pronouns are. Mine personally are hey, you, which is really nice. Really nice, because hey, you can be used in the singular as in hey, or you, or in the plural as in hey, you. So my pronouns are hey, you. I think it's better than fuck you, I guess. That's it. And I want to apologize to Gail if Gail's watching. She hates it when I cuss, but sometimes I let those pejoratives fly. What can I tell you? Sometimes you got to throw an F-bomb out there. It's a way to keep people awake. And so that was just one of the stories that I wanted to show. I really, I could go on all night, but I really wanted to talk about what we were having or what we were doing yesterday at the meeting. I wanted to encourage you guys to go to the Breaking Wind rally tomorrow if you get a chance, and stay tuned for the next couple of shows, because we will be giving more information on the Trump train that we're doing on the 26th. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover on this show. And I know I've gone way into the weeds talking about a lot of different things, but I do have some funny videos. You know, I go down Twitter, and maybe I waste too much of my life on Twitter, but it's just so damn entertaining sometimes when I see some of these videos. And here's a video. If you're a Trump supporter, I think you're going to enjoy this video. This is just, and I don't know. I will talk about it on the other side. Here it is.
This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great.
This is so ridiculous. You realize that, right?
No, it's not. Fuck Trump. That's
Look,
what I said.
I know, but I hate Trump too, Chad. But you don't see me out here destroying property. It's probably illegal.
You know what's a fucking crime? To have a fucking Trump dance sign.
Oh my God.
In the main line.
I can't believe you just did that. What is wrong with you?
Oh, what is that? Oh my God.
What is that?
Oh my God.
Oh, that's just great. What happened?
Oh my God. Ah!
What?
These fucking people! They're fucking assholes!
I have to get to work. Don't tell me you got a flat.
Look what they did!
Oh, boy.
Fucking asshole!
Well,
I love how the wife is laughing at him at the end there. I mean, she really must not like her husband. She filmed him doing something incredibly stupid, and then she mocks him after he screws up, runs over the Trump sign, and gets the quick consequences of his action. And it's just a typical way of a lot of leftist women, how they treat their husband. But I would have been laughing at him as well, because, you know, I don't know, that right there, I have to say, yeah, it's not real. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's real. Let's see. This is Heaven Taste S. I don't know if that's real. Instant karma are gonna get you, buddy. Yeah, I tell you what, right now, that was instant karma. I think that was a phony video. I don't know, but I got a real video for you. One of my favorite people, and before I put out this video, I want to tell you, I don't like making fun of certain people. There are people who deserve to be made fun of. Okay, Biden. Okay, he's old. He's an old man with dementia. Most people go, well, you shouldn't make fun of an old man with dementia. Well, if he runs for president and he's my president and some jackasses on the left voted for this guy and put him into office, I think I have a right to make fun of him. I don't know. That's just the way I am. And so we make fun of Biden all the time, but there is another person that I think she's mentally challenged, and I think the left is serious. It's not that I even think that, I know they're abusing this young child. This is emotional abuse. They're just twisting this young child's mind. But there was another video of Greta Thunberg. Oh, that's right. I'm Greta Thunberg. She sounds kind of like a mixture of Arnold Schwarzenegger's love child. I don't know. Maybe he did it with another maid when he was visiting Austria at some point in time. But here's Greta.
What the people looks like. Show me what power looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what the people looks like. Show me what power looks like. One struggle, one fight, climate justice, human rights. One struggle, one fight, climate justice, human rights. Show me what the people.
Yeah, tell me what the people want. They want you to shut the hell up, Greta. I'm sorry, you need to get your ass back to school. I don't know why this little girl is, and she's probably not even a little girl anymore. Any woman under 20 looks to me like a little girl. And so she's probably in her late teens or early 20s by now. You would think, it seems like it's been a while. I don't know, but I think that this young woman, she was indoctrinated into a very radical ideology. They're using and abusing her, and now she's nothing but a person who performs street art, political street art, everywhere she goes. And she probably makes really good money. How much you want to bet? She made a lot of money off of doing what she did there. I mean, because they have an apparatus where they can go out and they can get donations from all these different places. And of course, the NGOs will help them out with all that stuff. And you have to ask yourself, where do they get all the equipment to do what they're doing right there? It's literally political street art happening in public now, and that's kind of what both sides have devolved to. I'm doing a Trump train, so maybe I, people in glass houses shouldn't be throwing rocks, Rob, but yeah, okay, I'm doing a Trump train. Sure, I'm lining up with 100 other cars with Trump flags and Trump pictures and magnets and signs and the little American flags off the hood. Yeah, we look really cool. But is that what our country is devolving into, where we're having our patriot street art fight the leftist street art? They're out there, kill the Jews, climate justice is human rights, and all that crap. That's really what our politics has devolved into, is that we're not really fighting in streets. It's like we're having, back in the 90s when the kids used to have those dance offs. Oh man, you're gonna get it. We're gonna do the dance off. And now we're doing the different thing, and it's middle-aged guys versus these young college kids. We're doing our Trump trains. That's our street art. That's about as artsy-fartsy as old guys my age will get. And then they're doing their street art, which is whatever the hell they were doing there. But you saw them. They had the band there. They were playing the drums. And I like the guy who's going up to the bus and he's clapping his hand and he's trying to get the people on the bus to chant with them, because that's part of the street art. You got to get everyone involved. It's like a circus. And so I really am seriously wondering, what the hell are we devolving into? I mean, I don't feel like this is going anywhere good. And maybe it's true. Like I said, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. But yeah, we're doing it too. And so we will be doing it on the 26th. We'll be doing the Trump train. We will be doing our street art on the 26th. So please join us. Please bring your street art costume, and we'll all join our costumes on the Trump train. And maybe we can get our own Greta Thunberg. I don't know. Thunberg. Is that what it is? Greta Thunberg. Oh, wait. None of your business is spouting off down here. Satan pays very well. Yes, Satan does pay very well. I've always seen that in the movies. He'll give you youth. He will give you energy. He'll give you riches. He'll give you whatever you want. All you got to do is sell your immortal soul. Yes, I mean immortal. Your mortal soul. That's what you sell, your mortal soul. Let's see. You got something else here. I was thinking about dressing up as a leftist for Halloween, but I couldn't fit my head in my ass. Oh, that was good, Nunya. That was good. But imagine if you could. I mean, I would give you an extra candy bar if you came to my house and you had your head inserted up your ass. I mean, I would definitely want a picture of that. Yes, this is me with the guy with the head up his ass. He's a local leftist. He's one of our leftists. That would be beautiful. Now, that's street art worth having. That's great street art. We got another comment here. We need a strong men to rise up. Feminism has silenced them over the decades. Yes, that is true. When I was a kid, we had mothers at home. My mother and most of my friends' mothers. When we went home, we had moms cooking lunch for us and dinner for us and taking us to the games, and dads who would come home after work and they would have their beer or their cocktail. And it was a whole different world back in the 70s. It was a beautiful thing to have an entire family there. Then in the 80s, kids become latchkey kids, where where mom and dad are working jobs. They both have to work because they got to pay for the new taxes that we have to pay for because of all the new agencies and bureaucracies that have sprouted up in government. And these latchkey kids, they grow up to be the single parents who can't raise their kid at all because they're at work full time and their kid is raising themselves, or the streets are raising your kid. And we got a lot of these kids who are being raised by the streets, and that's why you got a lot of Antifa out there. And men, yes, in part are to blame, but I think society as a whole has to take some blame. We've wanted the comfort of government. So many people want the comfort of government. We're willing to give up all the things that make families good. The churches, the charities, the schools, the social functions, all those things that we used to participate way back in the day. I'll give you a good example. And I'm guilty of this as well. When I grew up, we had dinner at 6:00. I to this day I can remember dinner was always at 6:00, and we all sat around the table, and it was a full table. I had 2 brothers and a sister, and a mom and a dad. Remember, it doesn't take a village to raise a child. All it takes is a mom and a dad. And I had a mom and a dad, and so did most of the people back in the 70s. We had mom and dad at the dinner table where we'd all talk about what we did for the day and what they did for the day. And then, we would communicate as a family, and you got an idea of who ruled the roost. I mean, mom usually ruled the roost most of the time, but if she had to go to dad, if she had to interject dad into the picture, your ass was going to get whooped. That's just the way it was back in the day. And men, strong men, they didn't cry, and they always were strong people of strong character most of the time. I mean, I don't want to project this image that all families were good families. There were a lot of guys who were deadbeat dads in the 70s, but overall, most of my friends had that type of lifestyle. It was the middle class lifestyle, and we lived really well. And like I said, at the point in time when kids became latchkey kids, though, that was the generation that grew up and nobody had fathers at home anymore. It's very sad, and it's because our government has grown so big. The deficit is so large. It's creating and has created a debt that we'll never be able to pay off. Our kids will never be able to pay this off. I think we're now like $34 trillion in debt. We're probably at about 150 of unfunded liabilities worth of debt, and it's only getting worse. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going to end this trend. And I do hope that more people start having that family dinner and family connections. I know it's something that me and my wife are working for right now, and we're excited. We've got very great news. My granddaughter, her and my son and my daughter-in-law, they're moving back to Bandon because they got tired of living in Happy Valley, which is right next to Portland. And I hate going up there and seeing them because I see the shithole that they live in. And I watch all of the homeless people up there. You think we got homeless problems? No, go up to Happy Valley. Every damn corner, there's some freak there doing something weird. And you have to cover your grandchild's eyes so she don't see the big black butt from the black guy behind the bushes who's shooting up or doing whatever he's doing back there, rolling on the ground, yelling, screaming. And that was an actual experience that I just had recently up there. And so I'm so glad that my kid is finally moving back. And it's really sad when a lot of people lose their kids to the big city, and they lose their kids to this woke mind disease. It is a mind disease, very well guaranteed. So, I haven't been more excited in all my life to finally get my kid back because it's another way that I know that we're going to be more of a secure family unit than having him 5 hours away up in Portland. So, I hope the best for all of you. I hope you get involved. I hope that all good things come your way. And before I get out of here, you know what I got to do? I got to pay some bills. It's always important that you pay those bills. Let's see. Where are those bills? Let's see. 3H Tree Service. 3H Tree Service, one of my fine sponsors. And I just found out they do micro logging. I'm going to ask Matt what micro logging is. Does that mean they cut down little trees or do they do smaller areas? Is it smaller areas or little trees? I heard his commercial on the radio and they were bragging about how they do micro logging. And I'm not sure what the hell is micro logging. Yeah, is that the size or is that the area? I don't know. So, but if you need micro logging, you need to get those trees taken out. You've got those problem trees. You got bushes growing up all over the place. They can take those out. They will clean out your yard. It's a beautiful thing they do. You can reach them at 541-294-1800. Once again, that's 541-294-1800. 3H Tree Service. I highly recommend their services, and Matt's a really cool dude. On Monday, I'm hoping we're going to be able to play some more Where's 3H Tree Service. We didn't get a winner last week, and Matt kind of left me hanging. He didn't tell me whether we had a winner or not, but apparently we didn't. And so we're going to do it again this week. We're going to do another game of Where's 3H Tree Service. But if you need those trees taken out in your yard, call them at 541-294-1800. And if you got any automotive needs, I would suggest you get a hold of Tim or Josh over at Tom and Gigs. You can get them over at 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay. That's right behind the car wash. You know where it is. It's in the Empire neighborhood. You can just let your nose lead your way. And so Tom and Gigs, they are an incredible bunch of mechanics over there. They do a great job of repairing their cars and your trucks. They do a great job of keeping them in tune, aligned. If you need accessories for those cars or trucks, they can do it. They can get the job done at Tom and Gigs. You can give them a call at 541-888-4660. Once again, that's 541-888-4660. And you can go to see them at 135 South Shoneman Street. Tim, he's always happy to see you and greet you with a smile. If you need an RC car, they got RC cars. You need some tannerite? You might need some tannerite. You got some squatters? Well, they got tannerite. I don't know. I don't want to put any ideas in your head. Let's see. Herbal Choices. They are another one of my sponsors, Herbal Choices, for all your herbal needs. And they have 5 locations. They have one here in Bandon, just south of town. They have one on 101 in Coos Bay. They have one on 101 in North Bend. They also have one on 101 in Reedsport. In fact, from Reedsport to Bandon, you've got 4 different herbal choices to choose from for all your herbal needs. And if you're in Charleston, they have a store there as well. Always a well-lit store with a well-lit parking lot, and you get service with a smile. Herbal Choices. It's the choice I would make if I was going to one of those dispensaries. And Oregon Firearms Federation. You know, Oregon Firearms Federation has been fighting for your Second Amendment rights for over 30 years. Kevin Starrett does a good job of defending our Second Amendment rights. I highly recommend this group. They're No Compromise, the only no compromise gun organization in Oregon. I can tell you, I know most of the people in all the other gun groups. Some of them aren't even real gun groups. They're just created so that certain Republicans can look like they've been endorsed by a gun organization, but they're fake gun organizations. And if you want a real gun organization, I highly recommend the Oregon Firearms Federation, the only no compromise gun group in Oregon. OregonFirearms.org is where they can be reached. And you can find out more by signing up for their newsletter. He just sent one out. I need to get Kevin back on the show. We need to do a show. We're going to do it on Monday instead of Friday because I got to be a little bit more professional when I have Kevin on here because he's got a lot of serious stuff to talk about. You know, my Friday nights. Yeah, what can I tell you? I like to get a little wild on my Friday nights. Well, I guess this is as wild as I get. I wish Marty was here. We could be playing that drinking game if Marty was here. Maybe next week. Next week, we'll be doing the drinking game. And, of course, they're not my sponsors, but I like to remind everyone we got Bandon Gun Club here. If you need to go and hone your pistol skills, your shotgun skills, you can do it at the Bandon Gun Club, bandongunclub.org. If you want to go out and shoot your rifle, sight in your scope, I would recommend the Tioga Sports Park, tiogasportspark.org. Go check them out. If you're planning on going to Tioga Sports Park, go to their website and make sure they're going to be there, because they depend on volunteers to run the park. And sometimes they don't always have volunteers. And sometimes if it's bad weather, they don't have the volunteers come out. I mean, would you really want to stand there in a stormy Oregon day watching someone shoot? I don't blame the volunteers. They don't get paid. They're good people. And so you got to find out when they're going to be there and when this is going to be open. They're open most weekends through the better part of the year. And let's see, was that it? Yeah, I think that was it. So I hope you enjoyed my video. Yeah, that was beautiful. That's not Trump hater. I really enjoyed that. I do have.
Warning, the federal government is trying to put you in a fog when it comes to the offshore wind turbine project. BOEM just announced that it's going to start leasing offshore areas for the wind turbine project soon. This is after they ignored the objections of the environmentalists, tribes, fishing industry, and the general population. Are you tired of government overreach ramming green projects down our throats?
Yes.
Are you annoyed that the government is ignoring your concerns?
Yes.
Do you want to help stop wind turbine projects off our coast? Yes! Vote yes for Measure 8-116 and help stop the wind turbines. Paid for by OAWT PAC 23863.
And remember, in Coos Bay, the number is 6219. Vote yes, because yes means no, and that's how politics works. That's how it works here in Oregon. We're a little confused. We don't know what we're going to do. We're going to dye our hair blue. Hear that music? Yeah, it's that time again. I got to go. And I hope I see some of you at the rally tomorrow. I certainly hope I see some of you at the Trump train. And I hope you had a good time. I'll be here Monday at 3 o'clock. I've got the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Representative in District 4. He's running against Monique Despain, and I forget who the other candidates are. They didn't ask, they didn't answer my email if they wanted to come on the show or not. So if they're not going to come on my show, hey, screw you, man. The Libertarian candidate did. He's going to be here. So I'll be talking to him, see what he's like. I think he's a psychiatrist. Maybe he could help me with my problems. I will initiate some political therapy on him, and he can initiate some mental therapy for me, because it could be a symbiotic relationship with this guest on Monday. I don't know. Sometimes I don't like talking to psychiatrists. They might tell me something I really don't want to know about myself. Doc, please don't say any more. I didn't want to know. Yeah, it should be a cool Monday. I also am going to play the video. I did an interview with Dr. Frank right before we did the debate, and I didn't talk about voter integrity as so much as I talked about why he's doing what he's doing, because I wanted to find out about Dr. Frank, because he's a really cool guy, and I want you guys to know who he is. He's a really, really great man. And like I said, if you knew him, I think you would understand why many of us really believe in his work. If you see his work, you see what he's done, I think you would understand what's going on in this state. It's happening in a lot of states. So I'll be playing that, and I'll be talking to the Libertarian candidate in District 4. So I'll see you then. And I hope you all have a good weekend. And until next time, you know what I always say? Carry on, Coos County. Carry on.